Oh, we got the bird right here.
Oh, yeah, she said this. Hell yeah, yes, please.
Oh my God. Are they okay? I can't believe Alec Baldwin was holding the gun. That's so... Welcome to the worst day of my life.
These were the exact moments when a film set turned into chaos, marking the beginning of the horrors for everyone involved.
This production cut in every corner they could, hired people that were unqualified, and this is what they got.
Alec Baldwin was set to make Rust the defining film of his career, unaware that it would be highlighted for all the wrong reasons.
Are you doing okay?
No, I'm not, actually.
Okay. Yeah, an associate or...
What to do.
Okay.
You tell me what to do.
As the detectives dug deeper, every twist, every hidden truth, and every clue will be unraveled, making it the most twisted and unforgettable case of their entire careers.
Yeah, where did you put those dummy rooms? Those ones I actually did end up throwing away in a panic.
I didn't pull the trigger. I didn't pull the trigger, I only cocked it, and it shouldn't have fired.
This company doesn't produce live ammo. So what the fuck?
On October 21st, 2021, a huge commotion broke out on the set of the Rust movie, which was being shot inside a church on the outskirts of Santa Fe in New Mexico. Alec Baldwin, the producer and the protagonist of the film, was ready to shoot his next scene, which involved him using a pistol to fire at his enemies. Before the actual scene, he decided to practice with the gun, which was supposed to only contain dummy rounds. As he pulled the gun out and fired the rounds, a huge boom erupted, sending a dead silence across the shooting area. Unaware of what had just happened, everyone assumed that Alec's acting was just on point and the scene they were about to shoot would turn out to be perfect. However, this whole scene turned from real to real quickly, and what happened next stopped everyone dead in their tracks. A live bullet had been fired from Alec's gun instead of the dummy ones. This real firing had wounded the 42-year-old cinematographer of the movie, Halyna Hutchins, critically. The bullet seemed to go right through her chest before escaping from her back and hitting the director, Joel Souza. Halyna was lying on the floor in excruciating pain. Panic set in and the emergency services were called immediately to the set. As the paramedics arrived at the scene, they began tending to Halyna in hopes of saving her life. She was breathing heavily as the paramedics decided to immediately transfer her to a nearby hospital.
Oh, we got the bird right here.
Oh, he's done. Okay.
You want a BBM?
Yeah, she said this. Hell yeah, yes, please.
We got it through and through on her. It went through and through on her.
Deep breath, Halyna. Deep breath.
I'm gonna be okay.
Where's the bird?
It's right here. Okay. Approximately 23-year-old female in the back of the ambulance right now. Gunshot underneath the right arm. Went through all the way to the back left.
Once the police reached the scene, they immediately sealed the area, putting a stop to the filming, and they began to question the people on the set. Their first person of interest was the man himself who had shot the gun, Alec Baldwin. When police questioned the protagonist of the film as to what had happened, he told them the same story that everyone had stated earlier. He was shooting his next scene and pulled out his 1880 prop gun to fire at his enemies in the movie. However, this shot turned out to be a real one and hit Halyna before hitting the director, Joel Souza. The bullet had pierced through the body of the cinematographer before reaching and scratching the director's skin. This was when the other crew members immediately called for emergency responders, hoping that nothing serious had happened to her. Within 15 minutes of the call, multiple paramedic vehicles, including a helicopter, reached the church along with the police officers.
I don't know if it's a movie set, but one of the guns was real. And we don't know the patients right now. There is a medical, somebody on scene, but we don't know the situation right now, if they're dead, they're dying.
As paramedics rushed Halyna to the hospital, the set of Rust was plunged into chaos.
Female in the back of the ambulance right now. Gunshot underneath the right arm. Went through all the way to the back left.
As the police arrived, they immediately shifted their focus to the young armorer, 24-year-old Hannah Gutierrez Reed, the last person to handle the weapon before it was placed in Alec Baldwin's hands. The responsibility was enormous. She was in charge of the weapons, from loading to unloading, ensuring everything was safe.
Oh my God. Are they okay?
How do I know this is a gun?
That's the gun.
Okay.
Dave, do you have those rounds I gave you?
What?
They're on the cart.
Are they?
I don't know.
Oh, who'd you give them to?
Get them back to you.
Okay. This is that's the one. And okay. Sorry.
You're okay.
Sorry.
Just relax. Just relax.
So scared.
You're all right. Just relax.
So here's the box that I got them out of.
Okay. Leave them right there. Leave them right there, okay? Relax. I just need you to relax. Just relax, okay? I just need you to relax. Just please relax, okay? Just take deep breaths and relax. Can somebody get water for her?
No, there's water. Right?
Yeah. Is she? Where the are these entry wounds? Is she okay? Can somebody tell me anything?
I don't know anything. Right now I don't know. I'm just trying to secure everything. Okay?
They then went on to question the protagonist, Alec Baldwin, who had fired the shots and was now amongst the prime suspects.
Mr. Baldwin, Detective Roy Arndt. Nice to meet you, sir. Yeah, if we could have a chat over here. Are you doing okay?
No, I'm not actually.
Okay. Yeah. Crazy series of events. So, we're requesting that you and Ms. Gutierrez conduct interviews back at the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office. Yeah, if an associate
You tell me what to do.
Okay.
You tell me what to do.
We would appreciate that, and then we'll.
When do you want me to do that?
We're gonna probably go right now.
So can I take my car? That's my car.
The officers then clicked pictures of Alec for any possible evidence that he could have on him. Now the question was whether he had pulled the trigger accidentally, or was there a much more sinister plot lying underneath? After this thorough search and collecting evidence from the crime scene, the investigators started questioning every single person who was present on the set. However, they were confronted with the same story every time, a live bullet being fired by mistake, and the next thing they knew, their cinematographer was lying unconscious on the floor with blood gushing out of her clothes. But the weirdest and most shocking part of this story is that this was exactly the plot of the movie Rust that they were trying to film, and to know what exactly had gone wrong in the church, the investigators started interviewing every person present at the shooting scene. To get better clarity of the case, the detectives interviewed the next person on their list, the still photographer Karen Kuhn, who was present right at the scene and had witnessed the whole incident.
So he's trying to show it to the camera, and Halyna and Joel are over there with the Steadicam guy and the dolly guy.
So they're to your left?
Yes.
Okay.
They're here. They're back here, actually.
Okay.
I'm probably up. I'm probably a little farther. Like I'm probably right there. You know? I'm on the wall, and so they're over there, and so he brings. It happened so quick.
Right.
Just, he brought the gun up, and then boom.
Okay.
Who brought the gun up?
Alec. He was there, and I don't know why he pulled the trigger. I don't know why he would do that.
Karen specifically mentioned that Alec indeed had pulled the trigger, leading to injure both Halyna and Joel, the director. The situation was now turning more perplexing than ever before, and it was hard for everyone to understand what exactly had happened in there. They went on to interview the key rigging person who was standing right outside the church when this fatal shooting had happened. The key rigging person is responsible for supervising the lighting and rigging crews and reporting to the director of photography. He made several shocking revelations about the management at the set.
So Dave Hall was asking for the...
And shook them. The girl's like, see, they shake, and each one, but one of them did not have a hole drilled in it. Which is not, it was not supposed to be in that load. The arm, I hate to throw them under the bus, but armists are children. They're not experienced. They were not. This production cut in every corner they could, hired people that were unqualified, and this is what they got.
Right.
This person was not a union armorist.
Okay.
Every union armorist I've ever worked with, I've been in the game 15 years, has been a 60-something-year-old ex-military badass motherfucking gunsmith.
Right.
Guy you look at and you're like, that's the armorist. Everyone. Okay. I can't even think of one that I wouldn't look at him and go, you're the armorist.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
These girls were all under 30, no experience.
His first statement came as a jolt to the officers as to what was going on the set of the movie and how neglectful the filmmakers were. They then went on to reveal that this was not the first time something like this had happened on the set.
It wasn't the first mistake on the show. There was other times when it was supposed to be a quarter load and it was a half load, or it was, it's just like they don't follow the protocol. They weren't following protocol. That's exactly what fucking happened here.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard it from everybody, exactly what happened to AD. Protocols were not followed. We were in a rehearsal. You should not have a loaded gun in a rehearsal. We never, ever, ever, ever fucking have a loaded gun in a rehearsal. What's the fuck for? They handed him a gun that was loaded in a rehearsal.
Okay.
He didn't know it was loaded. I talked to Alec after. His reaction was, I didn't even pull the trigger. I didn't even know it was loaded. Like, nobody tells, you hand a hot gun to someone, there's a call for everybody to know.
Okay.
Ear protection's called for. There's a protocol. It's all there so that this doesn't fucking happen.
Right.
And it wasn't
fire in the hole.
Exactly. It was not followed. There's nothing else. It was not followed. It's criminal negligence. These producers cut every corner they could, and they cut it.
He was then asked about one particular thing that could make or break the case for them. The description of the person who handed over the gun to the actor and his statement made the officers reconsider their decision.
So going back, do you know which of those individuals, the females, provided the revolver to the AD?
I know it was the assistant. I don't know her name. It wasn't the main armorist girl. It was one of the assistants.
Can you describe her for us?
What color hair did she have? Let's help.
I think she's blonde.
Okay. That helps us. That's all you need to know.
With this revelation, the officers became skeptical about their previous doubts. The crew member then went on to explain as to what exactly happened afterwards and what was the reaction of the person who had loaded the gun, the armorer Hannah.
After the gunshot, the AD had the revolver.
Yeah.
And then did he open the revolver?
The armorist unloaded each bullet into the AD's hand, and she was checking them before she would give it to him and say, look, it shakes. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. I don't know why I did that. And she shook every one of them, but one of them didn't have a hole drilled in it like the others.
Right. And you saw that, or you heard them say that?
No, I saw that.
This revelation raised an alarm bell for the investigators, but they still had to find more information, so they continued interviewing him. But nothing in this world could have prepared them for the stunning revelation he was about to make.
Alec was distraught, and I just tried to talk to him, and
what did he tell you?
He just couldn't believe it. He was saying, I didn't pull the trigger. I didn't pull the trigger. I only cocked it, and it shouldn't have fired. And I don't even understand, why did I have a loaded gun to begin with? It shouldn't have been, he was just reiterating all this stuff. And I was like, brother, I don't, it's inexcusable. I don't, there's no reason that you should have had it. It was a rehearsal. We were just talking. But he was, he kept, I remember he just said 5 times, I didn't even pull the trigger.
Karen immediately cleared some of the air of the investigators' doubts.
It was totally an accident.
Okay.
I really believe that. I mean, he was mortified. I'm looking at him, and he's looking at them, and then I turn, and she's down, and the director was standing behind going, he was just all disheveled because I don't know, where is it? It seemed like it was in his shoulder. So I don't know. They're just in there looking through the camera, looking at Alex.
So how many gunshots did you get?
Just one.
Okay.
Previously, everything had been pointed out to the actor Alec Baldwin, but with this claim, it could change the case upside down. The investigators were now mind-boggled with this statement. If it wasn't Alec, then who could it possibly be who shot Halyna, and from where did the shot come? With two people claiming somewhat different stories, the investigators had to turn to the third person who was also present at the shooting scene. This was Reese, who was also a key grip and was responsible to coordinate with Halyna and the director. His job was to make sure everything runs smoothly with the crew and managing them, but he was definitely not prepared for what he saw earlier.
Like I would say 8 feet behind Halyna and Joel.
Okay.
So Halyna was squatted like this, Joel was squatted like this right next to Halyna, and they were talking to it, conversating. And then as soon as I was walking in, they were conversating, and he was saying, is this the good angle for the gun, to where the gun was pointed. When he pointed out, it would be in the right direction of the camera. And as soon as he pointed it out, and then he just was like holding his hand, this is good, boom, right off in their faces.
Reese's story matched with Karen, indicating that there was no doubt that the protagonist Alec had pulled the trigger. It was the matter of intention. Did Alec really mean to do that? Or rather, the more important question should be, who really intended to kill Halyna? The answer to this question could be obtained by analyzing the cracks in the management. Reese had another story to tell that raised more questions on the management of the movie.
But usually everybody checks it, AD checks it, makes sure everything's good, says the cold weapons on set, announces it to everybody, and hands it to the actor.
You didn't hear none of that?
No, not personally.
Now everything was pointing to the negligence of the prop crew. Sarah Zachary, who was the prop master on the set, was called in for questioning. With over a year of experience in the field, she'd been entrusted with overseeing all the props used in the film, including the weapons. As prop master, Sarah was responsible for ensuring that everything the actors interacted with on screen was provided and properly managed. While the prop master is in charge of managing props on set, it's the armorer's role to handle the weapons themselves. What made her particularly crucial to the investigation was her unique access to the safe where the guns and dummy rounds were stored. Along with two others, Hannah the armorer and Nicole Victoria, the property assistant, Sarah was one of only 3 people who knew the combination to the safe. This made her a key figure, as in a situation where every detail mattered, Sarah's insight could reveal information that no one else had, and she indeed did reveal something that could leave the case wide open.
All of the dummies, the cartridges, I'm going to say cartridges, were they at that point, like was the gun tipped upside down?
It was, because she took them out of the gun.
Okay. And then her and Dave did what with the cartridges?
I mean, I think she just kept them. I didn't see directly what she was doing because then I was distracted with everyone's reactions, but I think she just held them because then later she brought them over to show me.
Okay. After she showed you, what did she do with them?
I took them back to, no, I just took the one empty one and I took it back to our cart, but I don't know what happened to the other ones.
When you say the one empty one?
The one that went off.
Okay. And what did you do with that?
I went to go check to see what box it came from, and I started comparing it to the rest of the box that it was in.
Mm-hmm.
And what I found was that there were some that rattled and others that didn't. So it led me to believe that there were others in there that were live rounds.
The dummy rounds Sarah mentioned looked like a bullet, but it's not a real bullet that could hurt people. It can't fire anything, and even if the hammer hits it, nothing happens. These dummy rounds are identified through the rattle in them, and these were the same dummy rounds that were supposed to be loaded in the pistol. And they were indeed loaded in there, but probably not every bullet was fake. Sarah then revealed an unknown fact about Hannah, indicating that Hannah's negligence could have led to this fatal incident.
I personally think that, I think maybe Hannah might have messed up because when she was checking the dummies, and what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to only do one at a time, put it in another hand, because if you rattle it with 2, you won't know which one is rattling. And I think that's what happened, is she might have had two in one hand and she rattled and thought that the one she was looking at rattled.
Okay.
And so I think I don't know how Alec was holding it or what he was doing, but I think he might have just been playing with it or testing it or something, and I think it just was aimed at the wrong direction.
Okay.
Sarah explained after returning to the set around 1 p.m. following lunch, they followed their standard procedure for securing the firearms. Once they returned, they took the firearms out of the truck and brought them over to the cart. She then proceeded to attach identification badges to the actors. At the same time, Hannah took the revolver to Alec Baldwin. She was responsible for ensuring the firearm was properly loaded and placed in his holster as per the scene's requirements. However, no one had anticipated that it would take such a drastic change, and it turned out that this was not the first time for the crew to witness such a thing.
Anything like that happen prior to today?
There were just a couple misfires one day with blanks, but they don't project anything.
Okay.
It's more of a spark.
Okay.
Overall, and that's it.
And how did that happen?
So one of them was actually by me.
Okay.
And that time I was loading the blanks in, and the hammer slipped from my hand, but it was pointed at the ground,
Right.
and so one of the blanks went off.
Okay.
And then the second time, a stuntman, he had one of the rifles, and before we were actually rolling camera, I think he accidentally pulled the trigger and that went off, but he wasn't around anyone.
Sarah then stated how they got all the ammunition used in the shooting and who supplied them, because the main question was, how did a live bullet reach this movie set?
Who's the supply for you guys on this set?
So I know that Hannah had some of her own ammo that she brought from another production. There's another guy that we get from, his name is Seth Kenny, and then we also got extra dummy rounds from a guy named Billy Ray.
Okay. So Seth Kenny, where's he from?
He lives in Albuquerque.
Okay.
Both him and Billy Ray.
Billy Ray, okay. Do you know specifically today's box where that came from?
I do not. I didn't see what was written on the box.
Okay.
With all the evidence and the statements, it was becoming clear for the officers that Hannah could be at fault here. Even if she didn't do anything intentionally, something could have gone incredibly wrong unintentionally. At the same time, everyone's sorrow doubled with the heart-wrenching news of Halyna's death. Injured director Joel Souza described how he was shot from his hospital bed.
She was between me and I think where the gun went off, and I think it went through her and into me. Do you know anything about what's going on with her? Is she okay?
I have no idea, Sir Jonas. I've been here the entire time.
I remember the armorer handed the actor a gun. I don't know if she said it was cold or clean, but she handed him the gun, and then there was a bang that was a louder bang than I've heard come from a blank before.
Is Halyna still alive?
Who?
Halyna?
We're gonna have to find out about her in just a little bit here, okay?
Please tell me she's still alive. I'm sure she's fine. She's just not here. This is like a movie.
The officers had also found another 5 live rounds, except for the one that took the life of Halyna. These real bullets were scattered around the set. These 2 rounds were sent to the FBI, which confirmed that these were indeed real bullets. Now, it's only natural for the investigators to question the armorer, Hannah Gutierrez Reed, since she was responsible for handling the props and guns being used on the set.
Why is he pointing at him like that?
No, he's just
Sorry.
What's your job there with him?
I'm the armor. Or at least I was.
Hannah was extensively questioned by the detectives in the Santa Fe Sheriff's Office regarding the weapons used on the set and how exactly a live bullet could have found its way to Alec Baldwin's gun.
When you got the dummy rounds and the blanks this morning, what were you guys doing before lunch? Was that just...
We were just...
with the dummies only, just
Yeah, just the dummies. We were just about to get into the blank stuff, and like part of my job is checking the barrel to make sure nothing's in it, because that's how Brandon Lee died.
Yeah, right.
So like that's what I checked for. I definitely checked this morning, and I was planning on checking again right after lunch, before we got into all the shit. And I already started checking the other 2 guns to check in the thing for them, and none of them had any barrel obstructions. So, yeah.
So you check the gun, but do you check the blanks and the dummies as well?
I do check the dummies. I shook all of them, and they all showed that they were not hot, I guess you could say.
According to Hannah, she was on the Rust set that day from 6:30 a.m. She and 2 other crew members had taken 3 guns out of a locked safe, and she inspected it. Hannah then secured the guns afterwards, before their short lunch break. However, when the weapons were brought out again to film the next scene, she didn't re-inspect them or verify the ammunition. She'd performed a check in the morning, but failed to do so at the crucial moment. Moreover, it was pulled out by someone else and had been handed over to her.
Did you, when you got back, did they look moved or tampered with or touched when you got back from lunch?
They did not. No, nothing seemed out of the ordinary.
Okay.
Was the gun still in the safe after lunch?
Yeah.
Who pulled it out?
Sarah pulled it out and she handed it to me.
Hannah told the detectives that it was her second time working as the head armorer for a movie, but this profession had always been a family business for her.
Have you studied armory, or did you go to classes, or how did you get into it?
My dad's one of the best armorers in the entire world, and he trained me in a failure.
The actor, Alec Baldwin, was given a Colt .45 with a brown handle, but he wasn't the first person to be handed that gun. Others had already handled it before him.
I walked in there and I handed the gun to Alex a couple of times, and Alec took it, and everyone was there with him.
Alec? Okay.
Baldwin, yeah.
Baldwin. Okay, so you handed him the gun this morning. Yeah. Does he pass it off to anybody, or were you able to see that?
At one point, Dave had it, the assistant director, but he was just sitting in with it, and then I saw him, and I was like, okay, this is fine. He's just sitting in, and then I walked out, and yeah.
And how do you know that Dave had it?
I handed it off to Dave while he was sitting in for the shot.
All right, so you guys were the only 3 handlers prior to lunch?
Alec, Dave, me. Dave was after lunch.
Okay.
Dave was after lunch. Yeah, that should have been the only ones. Maybe Sarah possibly, but yeah.
Then when Dave brought it back to you after the incident, did it look like it was the same gun when you handed it to Dave?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would be able to tell too by there's like markings on the bottom of it.
Okay. Do you remember what those markings are?
They're kind of like little fingernail marks, but like a little more dented.
Okay.
Hannah went on to answer the officer's questions, and that's when she mentioned another thing that pointed out straight to the actor, Alec Baldwin.
And is there some way that somebody can alter them to make them still look like your dummy rounds?
Well, so that's the thing, is that like bullets, like real bullets, pretty much look the same as dummies. The only difference is the rattle. And so, yeah, that's a choice, but also, I don't know, I'm kind of wondering, because I heard back in the day, dummies used to have like a primer cap. So I'm wondering if maybe it was one of those older ones or something like that.
Did you load them after lunch?
They were already loaded from before lunch.
Okay.
So that's the thing, is like, we had that gun the whole time before that, and nothing happened, and I wasn't in there, and they weren't supposed to be even pulling the hammer back.
The hammer Hannah was talking about is a crucial component of the firing mechanism in firearms. It's a metal piece that strikes the firing pin when the trigger's pulled, causing the primer of the cartridge to ignite and discharge the bullet or the dummy round. Alec Baldwin pulling the hammer meant he also might have pulled the trigger. Next, the investigators decided to question Alec Baldwin once again, this time in the interrogation room. Alec narrated his version of everything that took place that day during the shooting.
Take the coat over the thing, I see the camera's there. I believe, my recollection is she was there, turned a bit, like talking to him. So I think she was hit in the right armpit. But this is all I know, and that is that I take the gun out in the rehearsal. Really, he wants it very dramatic and very sudden, kind of sneak up on them. I take the gun out, and as I take, like as it clears, as the barrel clears the hole, turn and cock the gun over here. I turn and cock the gun goes off. It's supposed to be a cold gun. Nothing.
Alec was also questioned about who usually handed him his gun during filming and if the same person had done so on the day of the fatal accident as well. To this, Alec confidently replied that it had always been Hannah who used to hand out his gun on the set, and she was the one who handed him the gun on the day of the accident as well.
Was Hannah the one to physically hand you the gun at
Yes.
some point? During the time that you had it, was it ever handed off to anybody else?
No.
Okay. Did you see where she got the gun from?
No.
Okay.
She has a station somewhere with all her stuff.
Okay.
The elements and a gun, and a couple different guns. Guns for the other actors in the suit. She gets a loading gun.
Is anybody else allowed in that area?
I don't know, but I know that on this, I've never seen anything that was out of the ordinary. She had like sometimes they have a cart.
Alec Baldwin expressed how he thought that the gun he was holding was empty, but it was the other way around.
Or when we shot, for the rehearsal, empty. And then when we shot, the flash rounds and everybody preps. And then she says, hot gun. She announces it, and the crew gets ready.
But you didn't even get to that
I
point.
rehearsed with a hot gun. Now.
But you were supposed to be cold.
Well, it was supposed to be cold or empty, but now, not only did I rehearse with a hot gun, I rehearsed with a gun that had a bullet inside. If that's what came out of your show, this is the most horrifying thing I've ever heard in my life.
The investigator then asked Alex something that they had been desperately trying to find out. The answer that could solve the case.
I understand sometimes she'll hand the gun off to Dave Halls and then he'll hand it to you. Did that happen at this incident?
No. I never recall her ever doing it.
It was Hannah handing
I never recall. I recall that when we would stop the scene, if we finished a scene, Halls is someone who is assumed by his position to be authorized to do nearly everything. So if I was doing a scene with you and we finished the scene, or we finished your angle and we were going to turn around and shoot my angle, when they say turning around, that means it's time to go to the bathroom, go get a bottle of water, go get a coffee, go smoke a cigarette. We have a break. And if I was going to go to the bathroom, I'd hand Halls the gun to give to her. I would only hand it to her, or if she wasn't around, if she was awake, she'd be in the shop. They clearly hand Halls the gun, they give it to her. Give this to Hannah.
So sometimes you would hand the gun to Halls, but you never, he never handed the gun to you.
No.
Okay.
No, never.
So you would hand it to him.
I'd pass it off to him if she was not on site and I was going to run to use the bathroom, I was going to buy it. That's very typical.
Realizing the gravity of the case, the officers decided to revisit the crime scene. This time with the people who knew the most about the weapons being used on the set. Prop master Sarah Zachary and arms and ammunition supplier Seth Kenny accompanied them to open the locker and unraveled a crucial detail about Hannah answering someone unusually.
So-and-so, a stunt woman, saw a box of that, which would say Winchester or whatever, and it had colors and it would have warnings on it, all that kind of stuff. She said she saw it on the prop truck, or in the prop cart, saw it, walked by, told Hannah about it, and got some snarky reply about it, like, oh, I'll get rid of it, or I'll handle it, or something.
What?
The stunt woman raised suspicion.
Because, the leader, Alan, was asking for ridiculous requests, and Hannah kept saying no, because it was just, crossing the line.
Yeah, and that's it. I was kind of thinking, how did she, did she start falling apart, or what the issue? But she's such a strong personality, and even in that call we had with production, the first thing she did was say, yeah, that's not going to happen. Stunts is not going to bring their own gun on set and fire off blank rounds to create a bunch of smoke.
That was the same day. That was Thursday.
That was the same day. So
that was literally before lunch or something.
Yeah.
And I texted Mo about it because I was like, look, they're asking for these ridiculous requests.
Yeah, and then non-industry
Hannah was called in again a few days later. In this interview, she told the detectives that she'd actually been taking care of 2 jobs on the set, one as the armorer and the other as a prop handler. This was the main reason why she hadn't been able to focus entirely on one job, since she was under pressure to do both.
We were just kind of running around that first week trying to find props, and then I thought after that, after she got the assistant, I'd be able to focus more on the guns, but then production talked to me and said that I needed to focus more on props. I want you to step into this position, and we think it's a great opportunity for you, but really I just got to do 2 jobs for less pay.
But as the interrogation proceeded, Hannah told the detectives about the company from whom they purchased the ammunition for the shooting, and then the detective revealed a shocking fact to her.
Here's my thing with this company is this company doesn't produce live ammo.
So what the fuck? That's insane.
Wow.
So how did that that must have, is that one of those primer cap things I was talking about? Those older ones that like the primer cap's still alive? I don't know how that happened then.
So these are used for movie sets.
Yeah.
Because they are.
Totally. But this was from the top of the cart, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
This was around that.
That's right.
That should have been the one that I took out and gave to Sarah. That should be it.
Right.
So, what are you saying for that? Like, somehow that one that should have never been able to fire was able to fire?
Made it into a live round, or just,
Are you serious?
That's speculation.
Oh my God.
As this information came as a jolt for Hannah, she was confronted with another shock. She suspected the possibility of more live rounds on set, but that was certainly not the case here. Her words hinted at a serious safety issue that would deepen the investigation further.
Yeah, honestly, depending on how many suspected lives are in here, considering with what Sarah told me, I would kind of consider that there's another box.
This is it for...
Well, just because she told me that more than half of the box she shook and was live.
Yeah, we've processed.
So,
So the ones that we...
Where did those go?
I don't... When you're doing things in a state of after a traumatic situation, what you perceive could not be what is.
While everyone was looking for answers extensively, and the story somewhat had painted Hannah as a struggling figure, juggling 2 jobs, a new lead emerged that would portray a different picture of Hannah.
And if she was shooting, I don't know if you've actually been able to get any statements.
We haven't had anyone come forward.
Really? She wanted to shoot live ammo out of the guns, the TV movie guns. I said, no way, obviously.
Yeah.
And then she acknowledged, but then down below, right, you did see where she said, okay, fine, I'm going to shoot him out of mine, though.
Yeah.
Okay, so...
What does she own?
She owns a 45 long Colt of a single action army. It's a reproduction.
This was Seth Kenny, the person who had supplied the weapons and ammo on the set. While he doubted Hannah for firing the live rounds on set, Hannah vehemently denied the claims.
Why would there be live ammo on the set?
I have no idea. At this point, it's kind of seeming like somehow these were mixed in.
Okay. Did you ever do gun practice on this set?
Never. Not once.
Never took the guns out for target practice, anything of the sort?
No, and I think there would be videos, pictures of that or anything. Everyone would be pretty stoked if we were going shooting on set.
Although Hannah had previously requested to use live rounds on another film set, this raised serious questions about her claims regarding the handling of weapons on the Rust set. Despite this, she strongly denied any involvement with live ammunition on the fateful day, presenting a stark contrast between her past actions and her statements during the investigation. By this time, everyone had already assumed that amongst Hannah and Alec, one of them was guilty, but what they didn't know was that there could be another reason for Halyna's death. Just the day before this fatal shooting, 7 camera crew members were forced to walk out due to the similar reason that robbed the life of Halyna.
Well, what I put in my resignation letter was lax COVID policies, the housing situation driving to and from Albuquerque, and specifically gun safety, a lack of rehearsals, a lack of, preparing the crew for what we were doing that day. I think with Rust, it was a perfect storm of, the armor, the assistant director, the culture that was on set, the rushing. It was everything. It wasn't just one individual. Everything had to fall into place perfectly for this 1 in a trillion thing to happen.
The cameraman's claims were debunked by the production team of Rust. They released an official statement stating how all these claims were totally irrelevant to him and his team. On the other hand, things were getting out of hand for Alec as the reporters approached him every now and then.
She was my friend. The day I arrived in Santa Fe to start shooting, I took her to dinner with Joel, the director. We were a very, very, well-oiled crew shooting a film together, and then this horrible event happened.
News channels covered the case extensively, explaining the difference between live rounds and dummy rounds that are used on movie sets.
And what a live round looks like versus a dummy round. There it is. Okay, on the left is the live round. Remember that circle I was telling you about? There you see that circle completely intact. That's the primer. The one on the left, live round. In the middle, that's a dummy round, and the way you can tell is you look at that primer and it's depressed, right? Looks like there's a little hole in it. Now let me show you a piece of evidence in the case. This was a dummy box. This was supposed to be a dummy box. See all the dummies? And then the one that the arrow's pointing to, the primer is intact. That's a live round.
News reporters also showed evidence of how there was more than just one live round on the set of Rust.
I want you to take a look at the bandolier that Alec Baldwin was wearing that contained some bullets. That the 2 rounds on the left side contains 2 live rounds. So not just the one that was in the gun that killed Halyna Hutchins.
Further evidence was released to the public about more live rounds being present on the set and how Hannah was pictured with a few nearer when she was checking the guns herself.
Here's Hannah Gutierrez, the defendant. And this is a picture of her. Now you can't really see it here, but there's an actual photo of her, and she's got a live round on her lap. Look to the bottom right. You see right there? We have a closer look at that. Another live round.
Not only this, but also new information emerged from someone who was also present on the set with Hannah, the Keycraft Services, Rebecca Smith. She claimed that on the evening of October 21st, after the shooting had taken place, Hannah, perhaps beginning to worry about the consequences, had tried to get rid of anything incriminating. In doing so, she handed a bag of cocaine to her. In addition to Hannah's unprofessionalism, it was also reported that Hannah had even smoked marijuana the night before the shooting. Soon after these findings, Hannah was sent in for trial.
Big trial starting today, the Baldwin movie shooting. This has been a long time in the making, but it started today.
Realizing that this shooting seemed to be the outcome of pure carelessness, both Hannah Gutierrez-Reed and Alec Baldwin were charged with involuntary manslaughter. Hannah was also charged with tampering with evidence. She pleaded not guilty for both, and the case awaited trial.
Now, this is the first trial of 2 trials. What we learned today is that this movie set was perhaps the most dangerous movie set. I mean, out of control what we learned today, absolutely shocking.
The prosecution opened up their argument by saying that Hannah had done her job in a sloppy, unorganized, and unprofessional manner, and this had sealed the fate of Halyna Hutchins. They argued that looking at the movie set, one could infer that major accidents could have occurred at any time due to her carelessness. Even the lady who had made the claims testified at the court.
Were you present at the hotel the evening of October 21st, 2021?
Yes, ma'am.
And at some point that evening, did you go to Ms. Gutierrez's hotel room?
Yes.
And why did you do that?
Court
and I forget what his name was, but the set steward were in her hotel room and needed to go to the store to get something and did not want to leave her alone, so they called me and asked me to come up to her room.
Okay, and did you do that?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you stay with Ms. Gutierrez for a little while?
Yes, ma'am.
And then at some point, did you leave?
Yes.
Did anything unusual happen when you left Ms. Gutierrez's room?
Yes. She asked me if I could hold on to something for her. I said yes. She put it in my hand, and I walked out as there was a knock on the door.
Can you just describe what you saw in your hand?
Yes. It was a clear Ziploc baggie with a green small Ziploc baggie inside, and there was powder inside the green baggie.
What color was the powder?
White.
I want you to compare this to like a sugar packet that you
It was definitely not sugar.
The defense here took a different approach. They argued that since it was Alec Baldwin rushing the production, producers were also to be blamed for the safety on the set. They also suggested that the investigators didn't properly secure the area or question the witnesses thoroughly enough to find out what exactly happened. But the main question remained, where had the real ammunition come from? The prosecutors said that they'd been provided by Hannah herself, but the defense argued that they came from the ammunition supplier, Seth Kenny of PDQ Arm and Prop.
Live ammunition that you seized from PDQ Props, what did you do with it?
We submitted all the live ammunition for testing with the FBI.
Did you receive information that the live ammunition from PDQ didn't match the live ammunition on the set of Rust?
That's correct.
Did you provide any live ammunition to the set of Rust?
No.
Did you ever give any live ammunition to Sarah Zachary?
No.
Have you seen photos of the live ammunition that was found on the set of Rust?
I have.
Did you possess any ammunition that looked like that?
No.
Soon enough, the prosecution was able to prove that the live rounds didn't come from PDQ or Seth Kenny. But this wasn't enough to prove Hannah guilty of her charges. For that, the prosecution had to prove that Hannah was the one who had loaded the gun and gave it to Alec. And so the Rust prop master, Sarah Zachary, took the stand.
Did Ms. Gutierrez walk away from the cart with Mr. Baldwin's gun?
Yes.
And who put the dummies in Mr. Baldwin's gun?
Hannah.
Then she says she's going to go in the church and check it with Dave. Is that right?
Yes.
Dave Halls was the assistant director who's originally thought to be the person who handed the gun to Alec, but he told the prosecutor that it hadn't been him. He also added that Hannah didn't fully rotate the gun cylinder to check the bullets, which was simple carelessness, and he admitted that he was responsible for this too.
You indicated that you only saw 3 or 4. You didn't see 6.
I don't recall. I was negligent in checking the gun properly. She opened up the latch to show the drum of the revolver. She rotated the cylinder. It was empty. It was referred to as a cold gun. And Ms. Gutierrez just took a few steps and gave the gun to Mr. Baldwin.
As the trial moved forward, more people were called in for their testimony. This time, it was a firearm safety expert, Brian Carpenter, a man who had worked as an armorer before. He was shown behind-the-scene footage of the set of Rust, and he criticized everything that he was shown.
How is Ms. Gutierrez supposed to be responsible for what this actor is doing with this gun?
Well, from what I can see from the camera angles is I don't know if she's present here, and it appears that they have live weapons out without her presence. If she were present, she would tell that performer that you need to put that weapon pointed down at the ground.
Next, he was shown a clip of Alec Baldwin filming a certain scene for the movie and was asked if rightful procedures were followed, to which Brian firmly answered with a no.
You should have 2 guns and both were reloaded.
That conduct that we're seeing on the part of Mr. Baldwin, is that typical conduct from an actor on a movie set?
No. Basically instructing the armorer how to do their job at that point. This is that moment that you need to stop and say, no, I'm not going to hurry up, I'm going to slow down.
The defense, taking his words into account, stressed on the fact that Hannah was merely a 25-year-old armorer who could not possibly stand up to Alec Baldwin and refuse his demands, but the prosecutor was also ready with their arguments.
Experience, in your opinion, change the amount of responsibility she has as the armorer on the movie set?
You take on the responsibility of making sure that you do what's necessary. And if that isn't something that you feel capable of doing, then you should never step into that position.
They decided to squash the defense's argument that they claimed that Hannah wasn't given enough time and a proper environment where she could practice her job as an armorer professionally. Gabrielle Pickle, the Rust line producer, took the stand this time in the court.
When she asked you for additional armorer days, you gave them to her.
Yes.
Did you actually double the number of armorer days that she was originally scheduled for?
Yes.
At any point in time, did Ms. Gutierrez indicate to you that she did not have enough time to focus on her armorer duties because she was busy doing props?
The reverse would be true. She focused more on her armorer duties and less on her props duties.
Did you ask Ms. Gutierrez to spend less time on armorer duties and more time supporting props?
On props days, yes.
And when you say props days, what do you mean?
Meaning where she was not acting as armorer.
It was finally time for the jury to make their decision. The jury found Ms. Hannah Gutierrez Reed guilty of involuntary manslaughter and not guilty of tampering with evidence. On March 6, 2024, she was sentenced to 18 months in prison.
I am sentencing you to 18 months of incarceration at a New Mexico Women's Correctional Facility. I find that what you did constitutes a serious violent offense. It was committed in a physically violent manner, a fatal gunshot, done with your recklessness in the face of knowledge that your acts were reasonably likely to result in serious harm. You were the armorer, the one that stood between a safe weapon and a weapon that could kill someone. You alone turned a safe weapon into a lethal weapon. But for you, Ms. Hutchins would be alive, a husband would have his partner, and a little boy would have his mother. Please take her.
On July 12, 2024, New Mexico Judge Mary Marlowe Summer dismissed the case based on misconduct of police and prosecutors over the withholding of evidence from the defense in the 2021 shooting of cinematographer Halyna Hutchins. The trial had a sudden and stunning end to the involuntary manslaughter case against Alec Baldwin, dismissing it in the middle of the actor's trial and saying it cannot be filed again. It's the second time the case against the actor had been dismissed since the October 2021 shooting.
To the proceedings, courts may impose meaningful sanctions to effectuate their inherent power and promote efficient judicial administration. The state's discovery